I'll let you all get logged on. Today we're going to talk about a junky diet for shrinking fibroids. Can you have a junky diet and shrink fibroids naturally? Hey, good morning, everybody. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I don't have a whole lot of time this morning. I want to share with you, hi, whoever that is that just joined me. We're going to talk about this morning, I guess it's afternoon now, it's noon. Um, we're going to talk about a junky vegan diet for shrinking fibroids. Is this a joke? We're gonna talk about it briefly, but before we get started, I just want to tell you about some things that are coming up. Looking over to my left because my whiteboard is there, and I haven't had a foods to avoid to shrink fibroids naturally webinar in a long time. Like I think it's been since January is the last one I had. So I'm gonna have another one of those coming up. So be looking out for information about that. And then I'm also going to have a wide detox webinar coming up here soon as well. And in those webinars, you'll get the opportunity to learn the information that I'm teaching about, whether it's the foods to avoid or why detox. And then you'll get the opportunity to ask me questions during the webinar. So there's that. And then, if you haven't already, join the Foods to Avoid to Shrink Fibroids Naturally Facebook group, Hey Asama. And there are almost 2,000 members in that group. I literally cannot believe it. I just announced the group back in December. I'm so grateful that it has reached that many people. But you can join that group, and we talk about the foods to avoid to shrink fibroids naturally. And it's on Facebook, and it's at What Chelsea. You can link to it, in the description box below. Also, if you haven't already, you could pick up my Juicing for Women's Health ebook. It's got all kinds of juice recipes in it that are good for supporting women's health. But today I want to talk about a vegan diet for shrinking fibroids naturally. Now, all of you know that a junky vegan diet for shrinking fibroids naturally. If you've been listening to me for any time, literally you cannot eat a junky diet in general to shrink fibroids naturally. And the reason is because when we eat junk food, it adds toxins to our body, which load our bodies down, and we can't really process much of anything. So what I often hear is people will say, well, I eat a vegan diet and I still have fibroids. Well, first of all, there's more than one reason why people get food is not the only reason why people get fibroids. That's for sure. Fibroids come because of estrogen dominance, toxicity, stress in your life, traumas. I mean, the list goes on and on. There's a lot of different environmental factors that go into why fibroids come. But that question, I eat a vegan diet and I still got fibroids, is a big one. And it's because most of the time when people eat a vegan diet, it is a junky vegan diet. And just because it's vegan does not mean it's healthy. And just because it's vegan doesn't mean it's going to help you to shrink fibroids naturally. So let me just give you an example of that. You can eat a very clean, healthy vegan diet and still have fibroids and eat things like brown rice or bulgur or any type of grain, brown wheat pasta, those types of things. And you'd say, well, my diet's clean, but um, I still have fibroids. And the reality is that those foods are healthy in themselves. Like somebody who's not sick with clogged up with fibroids can eat that and be just fine. But somebody like me who has the propensity to have fibroids, I can't eat a bunch of grains because it's too heavy for my body to process. Therefore, um, toxic waste gets clogged up in my body and then I just can't eat it. So, and that's usually the case for most people who have fibroids, especially people who are symptomatic, meaning they have heavy bleeding, they have anemia, they are fatigued, they have uh, a ton of fibroids in their belly or big, large ones. They cannot afford to do that. So you'll find in the store vegan options, like in the freezer sections, you'll see like the fake chicken and the fake meat, fake steaks and the fake this and the fake that. And you said I sound low. I'm sorry. Let me see if I can move my camera up where I'm close. I forgot to put in my microphone. I hope that helps a little bit better. Hopefully you can hear me. I'll work on that for next week. I can't really stop in the middle and get my mic. I forgot all about it. I'm sorry. Um, but there's all kinds of fake foods in the store, and people think that because they're not eating animal products that that is like actually a healthy thing, and it really isn't. You have to get all of the junk out of your diet if you expect to shrink fibroids naturally. That's the reality of it. You cannot eat a bunch of junky foods, and even a lot of healthy heavy foods you cannot eat if you expect to shrink fibroids naturally, because of if your digestive system is being so concerned with digesting all of that heavy food, how is it going to focus on breaking down a fibrous fibroid? It can't, because it's too busy digesting heavy food. So that's the reality of it. I'm sorry you can't hear me. I'm that well. I will work on that for next week. Do you all have any questions for me for this week? Let's see if I have any. Okay, so I see. Is there a way we can hear you more? Ah, so you've been saying that. I can hear you. Hi, Jasmine. I do think that it probably depends on the device that you're on, but the reality is I need to get a microphone for this camera setup that is conducive, because even the microphone that I did use, some people were even saying that that was a little bit too low. So it probably just depends on where you're listening from, how you're listening. Any other questions that I can answer? I'll try to speak up. Philomena, hi, how are you? Any other questions? It looks like there's quite a few people there. So if you have any questions for me, please ask them. Can we eat cassava? Yeah, people have been asking me that for a while, but I would stay away from cassava because it's too starchy. Things like potatoes, sweet potatoes and white potatoes, those particular items, cassava, I wouldn't eat if you're trying to shrink fibroids and you have lots of symptoms from it. I would stay away from that. Any other questions? What do you use on my what do I use on my hair? um Nothing like special. Some different leave-in conditioners that are um natural. Like I use some Shea Moisture products. I use Camille Rose products at times. Um, that's about it. And I use shea butter and mango butter. And Giovanni is what I use for gel. So that's about it. I try not to be a product junkie like I used to be, but that's where I am with my hair products. What about yam and palm oil? You're welcome, Asama. Yams, I same. It's considered to be a potato in my book. I think people probably classify it differently, but yeah, I would say no to potatoes. They're too heavy if you are symptomatic. If you have too many symptoms. And palm oil, I say don't eat oils at all. I didn't say fat. I just said don't eat oils or cook your food in oils because when you cook it in oils, it's a carcinogenic and it causes fibroids to grow. And fat, like oils, they're processed down, even if they're cold pressed. You know, still too much on the body. But if you want to eat fats, you can eat things like avocados, your nuts and seeds, things like that. Hemp seeds is like my favorite fat and protein to eat. So I hope that's helpful. Any other questions, ladies? What can I do not to lose weight? There's a video on my channel that you can go back and look at. It's called How Not to Lose Weight and Shrink Fibroids Naturally. And if you need specific information about that, like if that video is not enough, you probably should sign up for some coaching to get your particular situation taken care of. So I hope that's helpful. I understand it's tough when you're losing the weight, but that video will give you some tips on how to gain weight or keep your weight consistent. And lots of people struggle with that. So I know it's a real thing. I will check the video out. You're welcome. All right. Any other questions, ladies? All right, since I don't see any more questions, I will end now. I will come back next Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time. If there's anything in particular that you want me to talk about next week, please leave it in the comment section below. Don't forget to join me on my free Facebook group, Foods to Avoid to Shrink Fibroids Naturally. Don't forget to pick up your juicing ebook if you haven't already gotten that, and all the links to everything are in the description box below. I pray blessings over you all, and I pray for healing in your body. Take care.